Are you struggling with a disrespectful teenager? You know, the one that doesn't talk to you, or they don't listen, or they don't do what they're supposed to do? Well, today I've got for you, I've got some information around what might be causing that, and this might surprise you a little bit, as well as 3 different strategies you can put in place to help have that disrespect go away. So let's get started. Well, hello again, everyone. My name is Jim White, and I'm an author, coach, and the founder of the Family Enrichment Academy. And today we're going to be talking about what you can do with that disrespectful child or teenager. But before we go there, I wanted to let you know I have this free resource available for you. I have 10 things you need to stop doing as a parent. Let me say that again. 10 things you need to stop doing as a parent. And then also what you can do instead for each one of those. And this is a free resource. It's available at the website FamilyEnrichmentAcademy.com. So be sure to go there and download that and check it out. So let's move on to our conversation today about that disrespectful teenager. Now, the common things I hear from parents regarding their kids or their teenagers around this is this idea that they just, they don't talk to you, or they don't listen. More importantly, they won't listen to what you're trying to tell them, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. They're just kind of a pain to be around. And that's what I most commonly hear. And so the question is, what do we do about it? Well, the first thing I want to do is talk to you about what might be causing this. And this is something that like I say, may come as a little bit of a surprise to you. So let me dive in. So the cause, and what I want to throw out, and this is one of the fundamental things that we like to share with parents here at the Family Enrichment Academy, is that all bad or unwanted behavior is really just a call to reconnect or a call for love. So let me say that again. All bad or unwanted behavior is a call to reconnect or a call for love. So this being disrespectful fits right into that. It's an example of unwanted or bad behavior. And what I want you to do is, if you take that perspective, it just shifts a little bit, right? It gives you maybe a different way of looking at this disrespect. It's not something you need to control and try to make them act differently. What we're going to do is we're going to try to reconnect and then empower them, is the flip side of that. And when we do that, then the disrespect is just going to magically go away. So that's the cause. And so I want you to think about, how can we rebuild that connection? And that's actually where we're going to go with these 3 different ideas or strategies for you today that I have that will help you move forward here. So strategy number 1 is just to be very intentional about building connection with your child, preteen, or teenager. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but the key is, again, you have to be intentional. You have to make an effort to do this. Now, I do want to point out here, it's not that, that connection has been there before, but maybe it's eroded a little bit, or especially as your kids grow into those preteen and teen years, they naturally start to want to pull away some, and so they create a little bit of a gap. And as a parent, you have to step into that gap and again, reconnect with them or rebuild that connection. So this is an ongoing process, and it's going to come and go over time. So the point being, I want you to be very intentional and just think of it as part of your daily process, is to look for opportunities to build connection with your teenager. Now, one great way is to be playful. Have you ever thought about, what can I do to be more playful and have fun with my teenager? Great way to build connection. Maybe you play a game, or you go, a board game at the kitchen table, or maybe you go outside and you play basketball in the driveway. Just anything you can do to be a little playful with your child or your teenager. Now, another great thing, and I just want to point this out, is it's really important to stay present. Sometimes what happens is with our phones and work being at home, we can be a little bit distant, so we're not, we may be physically present in the home, but to really be present and engaged with your child. So make sure and try to look for opportunities to be very intentional about being present and focusing your attention on your child. So there's a lot of different strategies. Those are just a couple, but I want you to think in terms of, okay, how can I rebuild connection? And if you do something, if something happens that damages the connection, for example, there's an argument. That's, that if an argument pops up and maybe you yell at your child, that's going to damage or disengage you a little bit. So just go back and fix that. Make amends for it. Maybe apologize. Do something to reattach or try to rebuild that connection after one of those incidents that may damage it a little bit. So that's the first thing I wanted to throw out there. Now, strategy number 2 is to stop giving unsolicited advice. The key word there being unsolicited advice. And this is an example when it comes up and I have parents talk to me, they say, well, my kids won't listen to me. I'm telling them stuff, I'm telling them what to do, and they just won't listen. I want to throw this out again from this other perspective. If they feel a little disconnected, when you give that unsolicited advice to them, it feels like an attack. It feels like you're passing judgment on them, and you are in effect kind of attacking them when you give that unsolicited advice. And so I want you to, again, shift your perspective around that and try to resist the urge to give that advice. Now, what do you do instead? I want you to just listen with compassion. So the premise is, they've come to you with a problem of some kind, and that's what prompts you to try to give this advice. Well, instead of giving that advice, just listen with compassion. Just be there. It kind of goes back to that. I talked about being present, but be present in a compassionate way. And just listen and allow them to share what's going on. If you do that, it's a great way to build connection as well. It's kind of what we're doing underneath that. But I know that unsolicited advice sometimes can be a common thing when we have these situations where we have the kids or the teenagers acting being disrespectful. So that's number 1, is don't give that unsolicited advice. Now, there may be a time where you have an opportunity to give some advice, but you need to wait until the teenager asks for it so that it's not unsolicited. Again, that's the key term here. So that's the second thing I wanted to share with you today as a way to help move that teenager past being disrespectful. Now, the third thing I wanted to share is around engaging with your child, and they tell you something that's going on, and you say to them, well, I understand. You're acting like you understand what's going on for them. And while you may have some sense of what's going on for them, I would throw out that their life and their circumstances are much different than they were when you were their age. So you may not have a complete understanding of what's going on. And the other thing is that when you say that to the teenager or to the child, they feel like they're not being seen for who they are, which again is just critical. You need to feel like they're being seen. And so what do you do instead is you engage with curiosity. You ask the question, what's it like for you to be in junior high school? Just start asking questions and let them share with you what their experience is. So again, rather than saying you understand what they're going through, you start engaging with curiosity and asking them what it is that they're experiencing. That makes them feel heard, makes them feel seen. It goes back to building that connection again, and that's going to help that teen feel connected, and they'll feel more solid with you, and then that disrespect is going to drop away as a result of that. So that's another common one I just wanted to point out as separately, is the idea of not saying you understand what they're going through, rather engage with curiosity. So there you have it, 3 things you can do to help to have that disrespect sort of go away or dissipate between you and your child or your teenager. So again, the 3 things where we're going to lean into, and we're going to be much more intentional about building connection, because in the end, that's the underlying root cause, is that your child's feeling a little disconnected, and that's where the disrespect is coming from. Then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to stop giving that unsolicited advice, right? When they come to you with a problem, don't jump in with that unsolicited advice. The alternative, I want you to just listen with compassion. It's a great way to connect and to have them feel like they're being seen for who they are. And then lastly, we're going to stop saying we understand what they're going through. And what we're going to do instead, we're just going to engage with curiosity. You're going to ask those questions. Let them share with you what their life experience is like. So give those 3 things a try, and I think you might be pleasantly surprised by the way that disrespect starts to fade away. Well, there you have it. So before we sign off, though, I did want to remind you I do have that free resource for you. It's 10 things you should never do as a parent, and then what you can do instead. And you can pick that up at the website, FamilyEnrichmentAcademy.com. So be sure to check that out. As always, it's truly a privilege and an honor to be able to serve you as you move along your parenting journey. And it is a journey. Until next time, remember, a change in perspective changes everything.